Welcome back to the Crypto Factor. Paul here. Today we're talking to Chris from Rice TVx. He is an independent journalist. He has 3 different types of shows. He has a show on cryptocurrency, he has a show on finance and politics, and he has a show called Stranger Than Fiction, which I have to read this, with unproven subjects, law, history, spirituality, and more. Chris, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it, man.
Oh, thank you for the invitation, man. I'm definitely looking forward to the conversation, and I enjoyed our conversation before we started recording. Yeah. And I know we're going to be doing something next week where you're going to be coming on my channel. We got to meet on an episode. I think we've been on a couple episodes together now on Bit Boys Around the Blockchain. So definitely looking forward to the conversation, man. Thank you.
Which is an awesome show, brings people together. And today we're going to be talking about a few things. We're going to be talking about crypto. We're going to be talking about Bitcoin. We're going to be talking about what it actually takes to succeed in cryptocurrency and a whole lot more. So yeah, I really hope you all enjoy that. Click that like button. And as always, you can always check out Chris's channel. I have the links up here and down below in the description. So let's talk a little bit about you before you got into crypto. First of all, when was the first time you got into crypto, Chris?
I ultimately made the dive into cryptocurrency in early 2017. I had heard about it several years before. A lot of my friends were using it to obtain things through like the Silk Web website. So it became familiar with me then. Economics really wasn't an interest to me at that time, and I really didn't have a desire for wealth. And so I really never really pursued those elements. It wasn't until I went to school for business administration and started learning about economics and really getting truly interested in that side of things that I actually decided to make the jump. And it still kind of took me about a year of really heavily looking into it, and throughout 2016, which like most people, I wish I would have gotten involved when I was looking into it, especially when I first heard about it. Yeah. But I wish I would have made the dive in 2016, but I got in early 2017 and never looked back.
Which is still good. What were you doing before that, though? What were you doing before Bitcoin, before cryptocurrency?
Okay, well, as I was telling you, I was a gentleman's club DJ. I used to sing in bands and really into rock and metal and things like that. Also into electronic music. Did the band thing for a while. Did the club thing, working in clubs. And that's when I decided I was going to start a business of my own. Wasn't really sure if I wanted to do something music related, production related, private DJing, but I knew I wanted to be my own boss. So I went back to school and went to school for business administration. In my late 30s, early 40s, was able to have a 3.92 GPA. After everything was all said and done, I ended up getting 1B for my 2-year diploma. So that was a really cool experience. But most everything I was being taught was lies and incorrect misinformation. And I was fact checking my teachers. And that's kind of what really got me more involved with really cryptocurrency and blockchain technologies. And from a business perspective, I saw the creative destruction that it would bring to the banking system, to governments, and change people's mindsets about what money is and versus currency, and just open people's minds up to this system that has kind of kept us enslaved, this debt-based system that you have to participate in order to be a part of the world.
So let me ask you this. What were you like? Let's talk a little bit about your character. If I met you in high school, let's say we were going to high school together right now. We're sitting at the cafeteria, we're having lunch, we're looking at some girls over there, teachers over there. We're talking about her. I don't know what we're talking about. What would you be like? What would I think about you?
Wow. I was a completely different person in my high school years. I was a really selfish person that really kind of was only concerned about my personal gain. I was a lead singer in a band. A lot of people who sing in bands suffer from something that we call lead singer disease, which is basically just egotistical. I've had a lot of experiences in life that have humbled me, but at that time period when I was younger, I thought I knew everything, and I was just concerned with what I could get. And if you couldn't really help me, I really wasn't in the business of trying to work with or collaborate with you in those capacities. I used to book shows, manage my band. I was very much in control of a lot of things, which I've learned to let go of. But yeah, in my younger years, I was probably a person you wouldn't ultimately want to be around unless you had something to offer, or you were one of my bandmates. If you were in my tribe, I always look after my friends and family.
Right. Do you think crypto changed you?
Yeah, 100%. When you really start to understand economics and how the financial system works, for most people, I can't speak for everybody, it starts to change your mindset because you start to realize how interconnected a lot of these things are in the world. How war is related to money, and how money is related to banking and precious metals. And then you can look at all the political elements, all these various things that are happening, and you can find these interconnections. That's what kind of helped me with when you were mentioning about my channel. When I originally started my channel, it was called Rice Crypto. And that was the brand name. The channel was focused on cryptocurrency, blockchain, economics, and a little bit of ideologies in the libertarian realm. And I really got really bored with the crypto stuff. And I was doing a lot of really big, high profile interviews. Channel wasn't growing. I was dealing with a lot of censorship and shadow banning. Restructured my channel and added in other elements, and then separated the shows by different show names. So I had the Rice Crypto Show doing crypto and blockchain, the Rice Report dealing with politics and economics, and then Stranger Than Fiction. It was really kind of hard to really describe what that was, but it's dealing with like fringe topics, things that people consider to be conspiracies, looking into hidden histories, because I don't feel like the history we've been taught is quite correct. Spirituality, I've been studying a lot about law, real true sovereignty. So when I first started the channel, there was a lot of aspects of financial freedom, financial sovereignty involved. And I realized that that was only one of the parts of true sovereignty. So I started going down those different rabbit holes. And once I started restructuring my channel and then later rebranded to Rice TVx, my channel started growing a lot more, and I've been having a lot more success and kind of still dealing with a lot of censorship and shadow banning, but been able to grow the channel, which has been a blessing. But I would definitely say cryptocurrency has changed my life for the better. Even the investments that I've made early on have paid off very well. And that alone has changed my life significantly compared to how I used to live even five years ago.
All right, so let's do this. You have 3 different shows on your channel. All right, let's do a subject right now for each one of those shows. Let's start with the crypto show. What's going on with the markets? What do you think is going on with Bitcoin? I just interviewed Da Vinci, Big Cheds, and also Gareth Soloway. They're all pretty much bearish on crypto. What are your thoughts on crypto right now, the markets right now?
I mean, we're looking on a short term. I'd have to say that I'm bearish with where we are short term, and it's just based off the emotions and the fear that's going on around the world. Cryptocurrencies are very much tied to the stock markets, as much as people don't want to admit it. And when we're seeing issues on the stock markets, we're seeing that reflect generally on the cryptocurrency side as well. There's a lot of question about what the Federal Reserve is going to be doing with the rate hikes, how that's going to affect the markets. So people are kind of in this waiting game right now, where they're trying to figure out what the Federal Reserve is going to do, considering everything that's happening around on a geopolitical element, which would kind of go into the Rice Report, with Russia and Ukraine, and with Russia being pro cryptocurrency and wanting to get highly involved in the mining element. That could really change a lot of things that are going to be happening on the political spectrum. With Biden and his executive order, which is another thing that people are anticipating and not sure what direction it's going to go in. Because of what's happening in other nations, it could be very positive, because the United States may want to be a forerunner in this technology, especially considering, I guess it's like 10% of the Bitcoin remain right now to be produced via the mining process with block producing, or with confirming the blocks. So short term, I'm definitely bearish, but I feel like I don't feel like the Federal Reserve is going to be able to do the rate hikes in combination with the geopolitical elements that I mentioned, but also we have an election year coming up, and the Democrats seem to be having a lot of trouble, not very favorable in the polls. So in order to kind of have a better impact with the election process, I don't see the Federal Reserve doing anything to really hinder the Democrat Party, especially when you have a Democrat as the president. So I think once we get past March and either nothing happens or something very, very small, like 25 basis points, which really isn't going to affect anything, and that should have already been priced in, I think it's going to be kind of off to the races there. But now I'm a long-term individual. I'm not one of these instant gratification folks that want to get rich quick. I mean, it's nice that I can accumulate wealth in this game, but I got involved in cryptocurrency for the change, not the change, not the cha-ching change. You know, I really got into it with the creative destruction I was mentioning, with, you know, the problems that we have with our debt-based system, our fractional reserve banking, the central banks being able to print up money. Things like decentralized cryptocurrencies are our answer to get away from those powers, those elements of control that we give freely by participating in the dollar-based system.
So do you have targets on crypto or no? Like short-term targets, long-term targets, or anything like that? Would you think we're going to see 30K, 24K? What do you see?
Now, I mean, I'm not an expert in this area, but just from, you know, doing a little bit of research, a little bit of the stuff that I've learned from the past, I feel like the bottom is in, but I could be completely wrong on that. If the bottom is not in, I don't feel like we're too far away from the bottom. I don't feel like we're going to go below 30,000. If we do, I'm going to be really surprised. If we do go below 30,000, I will be taking what little bit of savings I have, and I will be definitely buying that dip 100%.
Yeah.
I've been accumulating as much as I can, and I've been doing dollar cost averaging. As me and you talked, we do things that where we can earn cryptocurrencies doing what we do. So, short term, you know, next couple months, up until, well, really shouldn't say couple months, the next 6 to 7 weeks, is going to be kind of bearish in my opinion, because it's going to be very questionable. Now, the Biden executive order comes out being positive for cryptocurrency and positive for the United States,
or even neutral.
That, as long as it's not negative, right?
Exactly.
If it's neutral, I don't really think the market's going to take off. If it's positive, it could be something to spark the markets up, where there are some people talking about us having some upside in the near short term, possibly going over 50K. And I would like to see something like that take place.
Right. So you think so you believe, and rightfully so, you believe that it's the political climate and the uncertainty and everything that's pushing the markets down right now.
Yeah, because, man, you understand economics. You live in, and you got to experience what happened in Greece.
Very, 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 very strongly.
Yeah. So, I mean, and with that being said, I mean, you know that we're at the end of this fiat-based system that we have here with the U.S. dollar, the Bretton Woods agreement. Nothing is backed by precious metals. Nixon officially took everybody off the gold standard, took the United States off the gold standard, which took effectively everybody else, and fiat currencies were around. So, I mean, we're at a really pivotal time period in our history. Nobody alive, really. There might still be some people alive from that experienced the Great Depression, but not very many people.
Right.
And we're at that time period in history, along with all these other things that are going on into play. So with the uncertainties that I mentioned to you, it was a lot of people who study economics knew that in 2008, the system was dead.
Yeah.
It died. They pumped it up with quantitative easing, putting banks and the financial system on life support, and basically everything are zombies. In 2020, 2019, we've seen the inverted yield curve, and then the repo market stuff starting to happen. Then conveniently, the pandemic in 2020, which became a scapegoat for all the economic problems they were saying that existed. But we knew that in 2019, we had the signs pointing the system is about to collapse. and we are at the end. And
Right.
that's where, I mean, that's just where we're at still. And so another thing that people need to pay attention to 100% would be the debt markets,
Right.
in addition to the other things that I've mentioned.
So that's that part. We did the crypto part. Now let's go for the finance and the politics. What do you think is going on with Russia and Ukraine right now? What do you think is the play? I don't think that Putin wants a war. I do not think so anyway. But what do you think is going on with that?
It's a good question. It's a subject that I really haven't dug into 100% to be able to find out all the little nuances as to what's going on. But I really feel like this is also Russia kind of showing, kind of flexing, whether or not they have the intention, just kind of getting everybody in an uproar. When we talk about the US dollar, prior to Trump coming into as president, we were experiencing what a lot of people call de-dollarization, where you had your BRICS nation banks, Brazil, Russia, India, China, your Middle Eastern nations, Venezuela, all working against the US dollar.
Yes.
China launched the Chinese yuan, the petro yuan. So there was a lot of things kind of going against the US dollar. Russia was even talking about using Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies to get around US sanctions. So I really just feel like this is a test to kind of see, like,
exactly,
almost like what they did with Alex Jones and free speech. It's to see how the UN, how other countries, how the United States, what Ukraine is going to do, how everybody's going to react. I don't think that this is necessarily a complete show of force and that Russia is ready for war.
Yeah.
Now, if it comes down to it, I'm sure that they will take it to that element. But I think this is a power play.
It's a power play, and I think it's also a test to see how people react. And if they can get something out of it or play off it, then it might be their chance to do it as well. Because
and also
it might be their chance. It might be their chance to stop NATO getting so close to them as well, and everything like that, and try to balance the things out. They want to see Biden, if he's going to be weak. Of course, Biden can't show weakness, but they want to test him, push him, see what's going on, and so on.
Right.
In my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, so, no, it's a lot. It's a lot to factor in.
3D chess. They play 3D chess. They do a whole bunch of things at the same time.
And if Russia knows that they're not necessarily intending on taking this into a war element, there could be more reasoning for this happening also as a distraction from other things.
That's why. But what is the distraction? Because I was trying to find out the distraction. Unless it's economy, I don't see it. I think it's also because Russia needs to expand to keep people far away from their borders as well. I mean, you have to admit they're surrounded, and you know, and for them, they do need to have some sort of safety as well, right? I mean, the NATO was literally invented to combat Russia. He's just putting more countries into it.
We'll combat the Soviet Union 100%.
Yeah, Soviet Union. So yeah, correct. My bad. Yes. All right, and let's go a little bit into the spirituality thing. Here's a question for you. I'll say it like something that I said when I was interviewed at some point, so you can pick up on it. I think it'll be an easier way to understand this. But I claim that cryptocurrency or Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in general actually will either give birth to the sign of the beast or combat against it. And we might even have, it might open up that sort of, whether you believe the Bible or not, whether you believe in this, it doesn't matter regardless, right? It can even be a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Well, I mean, but just to clarify, I call myself a practicing Christian, which is what people would think of as a Christian. It's just I'm not Christ-like, and I'm practicing that walk.
Perfect. So you will understand this then. It's very easy with the blockchain technology to be able to get a chip on your right hand side, your right hand or your forehead, as mentioned in the New Testament, in the Bible, in the Apocalypse of John. Or Revelations, I think it's called in English. And you can't, and with this sign of the beast, you can't buy, you can't sell without it. Right? If you get it, you will live like a king for 3.5, I think it was 3.5 years, but then they will hunt you down. Now, Back in the day, I said that the son of the beast will be a chip in your hand that you can't buy and sell without it, and they will label you as a terrorist if you don't have it. Now, the blockchain is giving you that possibility. Or is it the central banking coin, and Bitcoin will be fighting against this? So the same technology that gives birth to the way the prophecy could happen could also be the same thing that fights against it. It's kind of a weird situation. What do you think about that? And I might not be articulating myself properly today.
No, I get what you're saying 100%. The short way I would say is yes, I agree. That would be the short answer. There are dualities that exist in everything. So cryptocurrency, blockchain, it's a tool. And you can even compare it to a firearm.
Yeah.
Because this is a good argument. Everybody says firearms are bad. Firearms are evil. But how is an inanimate object bad or evil or negative? It's the intention of the user, of the person wielding said tool, what their intention is. Because with that firearm, you could defend some family, some young child. You could cause harm. So you have that duality that exists. So there is that argument that when that Bitcoin was created by the CIA or by governments or by banks, if that were true, being that it is open source and you can go through and audit the code, everything is a transparent, open glass house that you can look at. You can verify everything. If it was something that the government created, then maybe they didn't realize what was going to happen when it got into the hands of the people. Now, on that flip side, it could be getting people more familiar with the idea of using digital currencies. So as somebody who's more freedom oriented, as much as I love crypto, I definitely am not pushing for a cashless society.
Yeah.
I feel we need to have physical cash, money, currency in some physical form so that it's not completely track and trace.
Yeah.
And then you also, so governments are going to have their version of these digital assets, and it's going to be centralization involved. It'll be closed blockchains that aren't going to be open and transparent. And then you have this flip side where you have these decentralized cryptocurrencies that are the very opposite. Decentralized, open and transparent, you can verify everything. So going into an element where we have the government issuing digital money, it's going to bring a lot more attention to cryptocurrencies. It's going to bring a lot more adoption to cryptocurrencies. And people will start to actually have a better comprehension of money versus currency and what the problem is with having a digital currency. Now, other things that you got to take in consideration, digital IDs, which could incorporate things like a vaccine passport, which is mentioned and brought up a lot. I'm very cautious about the words that I use because of YouTube and what's been going on. And because I cover a lot of controversial stuff, I want to make sure that I'm not using verbiage that's going to have any negative effect on your channel. So I'm just letting you know I'm being conscious of that. But the digital ID, you're seeing that being created. Lots of different projects, but you see Microsoft working on it. You see MasterCard and other credit card companies are working on it. And those would obviously be centralized databases. But then you also have decentralized versions of these digital IDs. So again, another duality. So people just need to really support projects that are going for decentralization, that are going for systems that don't allow for collection of information, tracking and tracing, and centralization. People need to fight against that. And the best way that we can do that, I mentioned before, is just to stop participating. I interviewed Hotep recently, Hotep Jesus, who we did it around the blockchain with. And we talked about that. That was something that he was mentioning. One of the problems of us consenting to the problems going on in the world is us participating. And if you bring it back and you look at things from a spiritual perspective or even religious, straight from the Bible, and you look at what's said in the book of Revelation, we are going towards a one world government, one world monetary system. And that goes under control. And if we have a economic system that is at the end of its cycle, which is very comparative to what happened in Rome, So
Yes.
people can watch Mike Maloney, his
Yeah.
Hidden Secrets of Money series. The last two episodes, 9 and 10, talk about the comparison of the United States and Rome.
Of course.
And it's scary how
it's eerily
much
scary.
parallelization there is. Yeah, it's and it very much history is repeating itself. So it's an interesting time. And then if you really want to look at things from that religious perspective, the idea of an Antichrist, someone to save the world, come in and fix the economic system, bring in this one world currency, one world government, to make things easier, because then you won't need to have all these different passports.
Yeah, just have one chip on your hand.
One digital ID. Yeah, whatever the case might be. And that's another reason why I got into restructuring my channel, getting involved into the stranger than fiction element, because not only the spirituality, but the history, the law stuff has become something that is true passion for me. If I wasn't so old, I would go back to school to get a law degree, not even to be an attorney, just because I love the subject.
Yeah.
And the more that you understand and comprehend the law, the more that you can use it to your benefit, because law was created to protect people from malicious harm. And that includes from our own governments. And if you understand and comprehend the law correctly, then you can interact in those manners and be able to correct the wrongs that are being done to you, that people don't know how to correct because we're not being taught these things.
So
I hope that answered that question.
It's a very good answer. Fun question. If there was an Antichrist, who do you think? Would it be Satoshi Nakamoto, Vitalik Buterin, or Elon Musk?
Well, I mean, Elon would have been one of my first choices, even if you didn't give me a choice. I love Vitalik is not capable of being the Antichrist.
It says he will fool everyone, even the most elect, if that was possible. Vitalik writing a
someone who's got social anxiety issues, I don't see as being someone to captivate the world.
Okay, true.
And Satoshi is not going to come out admitting who he or she is if the main entity is even still alive. Elon, though, is an interesting character. There's a lot of really weird things that surround him, but just his name, L being in it, that is a title for God. When you start studying etymology and look into other languages,
right.
So, and he does seem to be wanting to do a lot of good, but I can see
L
where
in
that
Greek, I'm not sure, but I think L in Greek is light, or it might even be.
Well, it's all root for electricity,
right.
Light, electricity, spark. Right. So that I can see that
in ancient Greek.
And I'm fascinated with the Greek language.
Yeah,
ancient Greek.
So So L. Wait.
L on would be like light on.
No. L is Las. Oh my God! I can't believe I forgot this. I know Las is stone, and I think L is either light or I think it's light and stone. I can't believe I can't remember this. Anyway,
now,
I just made a fool of myself. I'm Greek and I just can't remember what it means. He's
got an interesting family. That's one. He's got an interesting family. He has really unique ideas. And I can't remember where I saw this recently, but somebody was talking about in the 1950s, it was like a science fiction thing where they were talking about Mars being habitat, like having people living on Mars. And the commander on Mars would be called, this is the term he used, would be called Elon.
Oh, there you go.
Like it was a title, not a name.
Wow.
And then he kind of Elon makes jokes as being like the commander of Mars, the dictator of Mars. And he wants to get off planet. There's just a lot of weird things.
He might also know something we don't know.
Could be in that candidate, but if we're really speculating from that perspective, I feel like there's a lot of corruption in the Catholic Church.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
So, and when we talk about a one world religion, and they talk about the Antichrist and the beast.
Yes.
And the beast seems like it would be something someone in relation to a church. More than likely something like
Could
the
be a
Catholic
continent.
Church. I don't see any relationship between the church and Elon, except recently Elon went on a Christian podcast, the Babylon Bee.
Okay, I didn't know that.
You know, they even asked the one there, like, would you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior?
What do you say?
I think he tried to pacify them and say, and they kind of made it sound like he accepted Jesus, but that really wasn't exactly what happened.
Yeah.
But he kind of stays away from the religious, spiritual kind of conversation. So I don't necessarily, I see more of people looking at someone like Donald Trump as a savior. And I'm not saying Trump is the Antichrist, but look, he has more savior type qualities versus some of the things, you know, that, I mean, Elon's got cool mission statements and cool ideas with his technologies, but they're not winning the world over technology.
He could be the false prophet.
And it's possible, man. I mean, I definitely feel like there is something to those prophecies that we can learn from. And I think the more in tune that we are with our spirituality and our creator, the more that we can discern and have wisdom to be able to decipher that information correctly and have what we say is eyes to see and ears to hear. And the crazy thing, Paul, is that when I started going down all these different rabbit holes of everything that I've even mentioned, the basis of it all comes down to, from my opinion, as spiritual warfare. And that was one of the reasons why too I wanted to expand out what I was doing with my channel, because even though I'm with 3 shows, it might sound like I'm covering a lot of things that differ from one another. They are all interconnected, and all under the freedom sovereignty banner.
Got you. All right, let's talk a little bit about success, entrepreneurship. What does success mean to you? Because you do have a successful a channel. You've succeeded in your life. You've learned things. You've recreated yourself and so on. But what does it actually mean to you?
For me personally, just to have respect for my peers and to have my voice be recognized. I know that different people have different levels of success, and depending on what I'm doing, there would be different ways that I would be achieving that. But I've been on my own path for the past few years, and it's been wonderful being like in control of my own destiny and just being able to shape things the way that I would like to shape my life into being.
Nice. So with success, there also comes financial success. What do you think it takes to succeed in life and in crypto? As 2 different subjects, but what does it actually take?
Determination, consistency, and making sure that you're researching things. And when I say researching, I don't mean just looking stuff up on the internet. There's a whole lot more of ways that you can research depending on what you're looking up, but knowing is half the battle. I learned that from G.I. Joe.
What about in crypto? What does it take to succeed in crypto?
Research would definitely be one. Taking emotions out, and really trying to come up with strategies. And you can have multiple strategies. You can have long-term and short-term strategies. So there's a couple of different ways that you can be able to do things, but keep to those things and keep to your plans and take the emotion out of it, because that is one of the biggest factors when it comes to cryptocurrencies, investments, anything to that is fear. And when you are going into this knowing what you're doing, because you've done the research, you've laid that groundwork, you set a strategy and a plan, you can stick to it a lot easier and not let that irrationality come out, because emotionally you're so attached to something. And another thing too, and this may vary for other people, but the HODL strategy is good for dollar cost averaging. But if you really want to take advantage of what these markets have to offer, you have to really start timing when you do buys and sells. You definitely want to be selling more on a top and buying back in, or buying on the lows as much as possible, and don't be that individual who like when Shiba Inu, when you started hearing about Shiba Inu, that was the worst time to start investing because it had already gotten to a point where it was like the project was going out to so many people hearing about it, you were late. And that's another thing too, with researching, which is one of the most important things to be successful in cryptocurrency. That's going to give you opportunities for early investments. And obviously, the earlier you can invest in a project, the more you're going to see better returns.
Right. What does a typical day look like for you? That was going to be fun. Okay, come on.
Yeah, I get up whenever I get up.
Okay.
Unless I have something that I need to get up for. And I've been trying to get up an average of 9:30 in the morning. I usually stay up pretty late till about 2:00 in the morning. And sometimes I'm slow to start my day. I like to have a couple of cups of coffee. I use cannabis for medicinal purposes throughout the day. So I have a normal routine of waking and baking and getting my caffeine in and getting my day started. Something I have been talking about that I want to shift is focusing more on my body and my spirituality. So I want to get back into the gym. Unfortunately, being sick recently didn't really help with that. So I'm kind of waiting till a couple more weeks of healing before I try to get back into the gym. I would like to start my days off with adding in some spirituality, some meditation, reading scripture, reading different, even though I am a practicing Christian and I follow the teachings of Christ as much as possible and do look at Jesus as my Lord and Savior, I do like to look into other spiritualities and learn from others, especially Buddhism. I find a lot of commonalities between Christianity and Buddhism. So, but as we were talking, when you're your own boss, you can wake up one day and just decide that I want to give myself some mental health and I'm not going to work today.
Yeah.
So I don't really have like a set structured day. There's some days that I may go 2 days of not really doing much. And then the next 3 days I'll do like 2 or 3 interviews for 3 or 4 days and have a backlog of content. I'm doing a lot of research throughout the day as well. I'm trying to add in time to do some phone calls and emails to schedule conversations like this and upcoming interviews, and also talk about opportunities to be able to make money. I may be taking a position with a project, so I might be incorporating elements of marketing with content creators as part of my daily routine.
Nice.
But yeah, I don't really have anything set. And I've had some people say maybe you should start doing some things that are like set and have routines. But I like the idea of just kind of like you were saying with your interviews, you write down some questions, but for the most part, you just kind of go with the flow.
Exactly. And then there's always questions I can ask off camera as well for the book, because you're going to be in the Crypto Factor part 2 or 3. We have part 1 over there. So there's always other extra questions and everything that you can always do. But yeah, if you go with a certain flow, it's best to just go with a certain flow. It leads to something much better in most part.
It's organic. It's not planned. It doesn't seem fake. And, it's to me, that's the best. I like having these kind of conversations because it's just like we're talking.
Yeah.
But at the same time, other people can eavesdrop in and hopefully they can find value and find something that may inspire them.
Talking about value, if you're getting value, go ahead, subscribe down below and hit the bell notification button, and make sure you check out Rice TVx and subscribe to that channel, because you will learn a lot. I'm actually going to follow it a lot more because I've seen some videos. They're awesome. Thank
you, man. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, man. Do you have any habits, any daily habits or morning rituals?
Aside from cigarettes, coffee, and herb, no.
Okay. Okay. Do you practice?
Yeah, I mean, I really had to set my tone for the day. I'm 46 years old and I've learned what works for me. I'm not an early morning person, and I need a little bit of time to kind of get out of that phase from when you first wake up and you have that grogginess until the point that I'm really
Yeah.
ready to actually do something. And generally it's a minimum of an hour and a half, but usually about 2 hours.
It takes a while. My girlfriend's 16 years younger than me, and she doesn't understand it takes a while. And I still get up before her. It's incredible, but sometimes I just can't. Do you practice affirmations?
Practice what?
Affirmations.
Affirmations. I used to do a lot of that, and it's something that when I talk about doing things more spiritual and adding more spiritual aspects back in my life, yes, in the past, and it's something that I definitely need to focus more on, because, and I've talked about this in videos that I've done on my channel before, there's obviously power in speech, there's power in thought. So we think about things, and then we can speak things into existence, and then we can put those things into action. And going back to a spiritual religious element from the Bible, the very beginning in Genesis, God said, let there be light, and there was light. So the powerful thing is the power of speech. So I really believe that we can speak things into existence, so we can manifest things into our life. I'm not practicing it like I should be, but maybe that's also part of having this conversation, is to kind of give me that little kick in the rear end saying, hey, you need to be doing this. Because I have this philosophy that I talk about periodically in my videos, and I end my videos saying, be the change, practice change. I talk about me being a practicing Christian. I have this philosophy called practice change. And it's about being the change that you want to see in the world, and learning from everything, good and bad, and reapplying that on a daily basis, and being the best person you can be, and trying to inspire others to do the same thing by being an example to others, not telling people what they should do, just showing people that there are other ways that people can exist. So, and the term practicing Christian, the reason I like using that along with practice change is because somebody that follows Buddha, they don't call themselves a Buddhist because they would have achieved enlightenment. They call themselves a practicing Buddhist because they're practicing to achieve enlightenment. And my problem with most people who call themselves Christians, they're not very Christ-like. So it's, to me, it's kind of, I don't understand why people call themselves a Christian and not walk in the walk of Christ, or at least try to walk in the walk of Christ. And so that's why I say I'm a practicing Christian.
Very good point. Have you ever noticed there's affirmations in actual prayer? If you look at the prayers that Jesus now gave us and stuff like that, check that out. You might like that.
What are you talking about? The Lord's Prayer? Or what are you saying?
When you pray, when you said that you're supposed to use affirmations in your praise. So, not please make me better. Thank you for making me better.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
Have you had failures?
I didn't. I'm glad that we're talking about
I think
this.
I don't want to say anything more. I want you to check it out because I know you like deep diving.
I do.
Failures about failures. Everyone has failures in their life. How do you handle your failures?
Well, I used to be the type of individual that would kind of beat myself up, which is what a lot of people end up doing. And that's one of the worst things that you can do. I mean, we had to learn to love ourselves and forgive ourselves. Yes. So what I have tried to do with failures, and you should appreciate failures, because that's really the times that you learn. You're not learning things when things are going well and you're having a bunch of success. It's the things that you're making mistakes, the problems. Those are the things that you learn from. So I really try, in my older age, I've tried to flip it from letting it hold me down and turn myself into a victim of my own victim, and learn it as a tool to be able to progress forward. And that's why with practice change, I mean, one of the things about it is I'm going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, I can try not to, I could do my best, but I'm going to still make mistakes. I can't say I'm never going to make a mistake, but the important thing is learning from those mistakes, learning the consequences, whether good or bad, positive or negative, and moving forward from that fashion.
Right. And talking about failures and learning from mistakes, 3 pieces of advice for getting into people. 3 pieces of advice for people getting into crypto right now.
Never invest more than you're willing to lose. Don't take out a second mortgage to get involved in cryptocurrency. Don't max out your credit cards. So don't invest more than you can afford to lose. And Is that the same thing I said the first time? Don't invest more than you can afford to lose. And obviously you're going to want to make sure that you're doing some research, that you're making sure that you gotta, when I do reviews, I try to point out things that I'm looking at in projects. You want to look at teams, people who are involved in it. You want to see if there's GitHubs where you can look at code. If you're not a coding type person, you can always compare it to other GitHubs of successful projects to make sure things look on the up and up. There's a lot of dotting the I's and crossing the T's that people can do. And then the other one would be, as hard as it is, especially when you're dealing with things like finances, really, when you come up with a game plan and you have a strategy that you're confident in because you've laid that groundwork with the research, take the emotion out of it. Have multiple strategies. Have long-term strategies. Have short-term strategies. And a lot of the times, the reason I'm bringing up long-term is because with traditional finance, most initial investments minimum are like 3 to 5 years. But cryptocurrency, people want this instant gratification, this get rich quick. It does exist. But, are you going to be that person who got the lottery ticket, who made that right decision? Because even me and you who have inside knowledge, like I could have bought Shiba at a very early point and probably be a millionaire right now.
Yeah, I miss Shiba too.
So
I was in Dojo.
Even having the inside knowledge, so you just got to make sure that you're making decisions that work best for you. And then I would even add in a fourth, and don't dwell on regrets, shouldas, couldas, and wouldas.
Nice.
That's where learning from what we have done so that we don't repeat those mistakes, because you will drive yourself crazy, especially when I tell somebody that if you would have invested $100 in Bitcoin in 2010 at any point, you'd be multiple millionaire. But just putting that back at the beginning of 2021 or soon after, when Shiba came out, if you would have invested, I think kind of a similar number, $100, and you still be worth multiple millions of dollars. So there are a lot of people who would sit here and beat themselves up over missing those opportunities and thinking they lost something that they never even had. So that would be the other thing that I would add in.
All right, cool. And the final question for today is what is one question you wish people asked you or should be asking you, but they never do?
That's a tough question, because I try to be very transparent about the things that I do.
So let me help.
I guess, well, something was coming to my head. I've had some conversations with people recently where spirituality came up, and some people were really surprised to find out what some of my spiritual beliefs were. Which made me really surprised and kind of sad. So I kind of wish I'd have more people that were asking me about my spiritual, religious beliefs, so that I could share that side of myself. It's kind of hard to bring up that when you're just doing videos by yourself. But I do a show pretty frequently with another content creator called The Spirituality of Law, as part of the Stranger Than Fiction series. And that's where we kind of get into just kind of what it sounds like, the Bible, law, spirituality, what took place with Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and then how Christ is the second Adam and what he came in representation of versus Adam, and then how all that parallels with law.
Got you. Awesome. So that's a great question for people to ask you. Now you know what to ask Chris from Rice TVx.
Which
of the descriptions are down below and up here. Make sure you check out his channel,
which I greatly appreciate. I would definitely, and I've got a lot of really cool playlists that people can check out. I've had my channel since January of 2018. I've interviewed a lot of high profile individuals. It's hard for me to list off everybody, so I encourage you to check out my playlist section, look under the interviews or look under the high pro playlist, and you'll see like interviews with people like Andreas Antonopoulos, Charlie Lee, G. Edward Griffin. I did have the pleasure to interview John McAfee more times than anybody else in the world.
Nice.
I did 7 interviews with him before he
Nice.
passed away. And so many other people, I wouldn't be doing any justice if I tried to mention just a portion of them. So
yeah,
definitely explore my channel. And then you can find me on social media pretty much everywhere at Rice TVx as well.
Cool. So thank you very much, Chris. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. And yeah, we will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.